Welcome to AK Anime Explainer. Today is explanation of Soul Land 3, Legend of the Dragon King Part 261. Without any delay, start explanation. Zhong Huanyun scoffed, but he did not push any further. Of course, he was aware that he would never be able to win over Tang Wulin from Blood 1. The endless mountains at night were extremely cold, with its lowest temperature reaching 50 degrees Celsius below zero. The surroundings were pure white snow, but if someone were to examine the energy in the sky with the appropriate device, one would discover that there was a vortex-like object in the sky above the Blood God army. It was absorbing the origin energy from the surrounding air. The vortex was acting like a funnel where its end was infused into the living quarters at the Blood God battalion. This funnel had already lasted for a full day and night. Finally, twilight began to appear in the distance. The dark night gradually turned deep blue, and another day's dawn was about to break. Blood One's expression suddenly changed ever so slightly because he could clearly sense that Tang Wulin's soul core was about to be completed as his speed of absorbing origin energy began to drop rapidly. In the living quarters, a layer of translucent gloss had formed on Tang Wulin's skin. It was so thin it seemed like the wind could blow it away. The light was circulating faintly just under the surface of his skin. He was already very handsome, but now he appeared to be pulsing with an even more heroic bearing. All the light bands had already vanished from his abdominal area, and in place was an oval-shaped soul core glimmering with a liquid light blue radiance. The soul core was about the size of a pigeon egg and was highly condensed. There appeared to be a blade of crystal clear blue-gold blue-silver grass on the inside of the soul core. Most peculiarly, something seemed to be entwined around the blue-silver grass and was spinning around the blade like a meteor. The soul core was finally about to be completed. Moreover, his soul power had broken through to rank 60 spontaneously. He was a six-ringed soul emperor now. A faint smile emerged on Tang Wulin's face, for he had prepared his soul ring earlier. His thoughts shifted as he realized that the damask tulip which had been sleeping soundly in the area between his brows had already awakened. However, just as Tang Wulin was preparing to begin fusing his third spirit soul and take possession of his sixth soul ring, the area between his brows suddenly began to glow. First, it was a speckle of faint green light, and then 5 soul rings immediately arose from underneath his body. 4 of those soul rings were glowing normally, but the 5th green-gold soul ring was blooming with a far more intense radiance. The soul core that had just taken form in Tang Wulin shuddered ever so slightly. He felt as if something was vibrating in the depths of his soul core. The area between his brows began to tremble along with his soul core's fluctuations. The energy fluctuations turned from mild to intense in a split second. Tang Wulin felt a gush of unprecedented life energy sweep across his entire body. During this process, he was completely soaked. Thick life source burst out from his body like an oil blowout. It was the first time he ever truly sensed the existence of the nature seed which the damask tulip had spoken of. It was a seed. A dark green seed, shimmering with a glittering radiance like a magnificent emerald between his brows. A tiny, tender shoot began to push out from the emerald seed. The little shoot was an exceedingly dazzling golden color. Tang Wulin's soul core was fluctuating due to the seed's presence. He had the vague sensation that something had been added to his body. The thick life source nourished his whole body and made the dragon core in his chest bloom with an intense radiance. Tang Wulin felt his entire physical form being altered by the nourishment of the thick life energy. At the same time, the gush of life source was blooming outward from his body, completely out of his control, and transformed into a green-gold soul ring before spreading farther. In the sky, Blood One was already prepared to retire after completing his meritorious service. He was glad to have built such a strong foundation for Tang Wulin's soul core by allowing him to absorb this thick origin energy for such a long period of time. It was evident that Tang Wulin had broken through to 6 rings. His potential was limitless, for he had managed to condense his soul core with just a 6-ringed cultivation base in addition to that enormous bloodline power of his. Yet, it was during this exact moment that Blood One's expression abruptly changed because he sensed something new from Tang Wulin underneath them. The absorption of origin energy stopped momentarily, but in the next moment, a gush of massive vitality, difficult to describe in words, suddenly surged out from below. The feeling was akin to a fountain of youth erupting from the ground, and the spring water of life surged wildly, bursting out to the surface before spreading to all directions in the blink of an eye. The entire blood god army was blanketed by this flourishing vitality in that very moment. He sensed it, so, naturally, Zhong Huanyun and Blood 3 must have noticed it as well. It was easy to sense the abyssal aura here, but it was far more difficult to sense life source at this location. Almost no vegetation could survive in such a cold and desolate snowland. It was only possible to see a dash of green if one ventured a great distance out of the endless mountains. However, this gush of thick life energy was only too apparent. Blood 1 had only ever experienced such a thing when he was in the depths of the Great Star Do Forest. He turned his head to the side and met Zhong Huanyun's eyes. The two highest-ranking officers of the Blood God Army were both shocked. However, there was no doubt that this swelling of life source was highly beneficial to both of them. The thick life energy nourished their bodies. They were both men whose age exceeded 100 years, so the effect of such pure yet dense life energy revitalizing their bodies would certainly bring them unimaginable benefits. Zhong Huanyun absorbed the life energy dissipating in the air without the slightest hesitation. As he did so, he yelled across the entire barracks, his voice akin to the sound of spring thunder. "Everyone, meditate." Even though they were uncertain of where this thick life energy originated, it was definitely impossible for Tang Wulin to claim it by himself. Indeed, life energy could be exceedingly helpful to all of them. The infusion of such thick life energy would allow everyone's body, cultivation base, and even life energy to elevate by leaps and bounds. The effect was most obvious for those with internal injuries. The life energy was growing thicker and thicker, but it had been blooming for less than 20 seconds when all of a sudden, a terrifying suction force came from underground. The origin energy gathered by Blood 1 earlier had yet to completely dissipate when it was sucked down by the enormous suction force at once, like a whale inhaling water. The life energy continued to bloom, but the absorption of origin energy startled Blood 1 because he felt as though even his soul power was getting sucked away. "Give it to him. Conserve the energy." Zhong Huanyun quickly shouted while waving his hands and unleashing his soul power to send the origin energy in the right direction. Blood 1's reaction was only one step behind him, as he gathered the origin energy in the sky once again and sent it downward. They were only capable of absorbing a very small portion of origin energy during their cultivation, so it was very difficult to use the origin energy to elevate their cultivation base. Yet, it was a different case with life energy. The sustenance of life energy could directly nourish the human body at its core. Not only was it capable of supplying more life force to prolong their lives, but it was also capable of improving the quality of their physical forms. There was no doubt that life energy was the highest grade of energy available out of all types of energy. It was needed by all life forms, but this was referring to life on the Dolor continent and might not necessarily apply to that on the abyssal plane. Nothing was more worthwhile than exchanging origin energy for a massive amount of life energy, and thus came Zhong Huanyun's reminder earlier. Blood 3 was also an intelligent person. She immediately compelled her cultivation base to help convey the origin energy in. At once, the original origin energy vortex enlarged by several times. The origin energy was guided in and supplied to the person below through the cooperation of the three great powerhouses. There was no need for them to compel the origin energy to infuse downward for the terrifying devouring force that appeared below them. It began to absorb spontaneously and violently like the abyss itself. Tang Wulin was completely unaware of what was happening as he had lost control of his body for the moment. He could not communicate with the damask tulip, but he felt as though a hole had opened up on his forehead, as deep as the bottomless abyss. This cavernous pit was wildly consuming all the energy in its surroundings, and he could feel that this energy was infusing into the nature seed. The nature seed unleashed thick life force to nourish his body along with everything else in the external world as it spread outward. It also seemed like the seed was desperately attempting to find something. The thick life force undoubtedly gave the most benefits to Tang Wulin himself, as it was only released after nourishing his body and he had absorbed its essence. Tang Wulin's green-gold soul ring was so bright it was almost dripping color after absorbing over 1/3 of the thick life aura. In regards to this soul ring, Tang Wulin had practically abandoned it completely because the only time he had ever used it was with a limit Dolor support. Moreover, he could sense that the green gold soul ring was capable of controlling plants within a large area, so he would need to absorb a massive amount of energy into his body. In his mind, he might not have adequate control over such incredible power even if he reached the level of a title d'honneur, leave alone anything else. Yet, at that point, he could clearly sense that the green gold soul ring was a part of his body. It had begun to fuse with his physical form, allowing him to feel its strength and gradually giving him the ability to control it. Was this the benefit of having a soul core? With his body out of his control, he could only silently sense the change on the outside while absorbing life force to nourish his body and stabilize both his soul core and dragon core. The dragon core was also absorbing life force rapidly, growing to a size equal to his soul core. The two great cores were linked to each other by the bridge of life force and began to communicate for the first time. The combinations of different energies altered them, not by fusing but by causing them react to one another. Surrounded by life force, Tang Wulin felt the changes between these two cores. He could clearly sense that his body was undergoing a metamorphosis. His entire physique was immersed in an evolutionary process. Life was truly miraculous. As time continued ticking past, Tang Wulin could feel it more clearly. Meanwhile, all the officers and personnel of the Blood God Army were immersed in the baptism of life force, as they could also sense changes in their bodies as well. Long Yushue sat cross-legged on her bed with a faint radiance emitting from the surface of her body. Her skin became brighter and clearer than before, while her appearance seemed to be more beautiful. Her soul power was transforming under the silent influence of the life force upon her. A golden glow radiated from the surface of Jiang Wuyue's skin as he greedily absorbed the life force in the air to empower his already formidable body. The pursuit of perfection would certainly have left behind some internal injuries. Yet, these injuries were slowly but surely fading to nothing when bathed in the life force. Silently, Ling Wuyue sensed the enrichment the life force gave to her body. She pursued the perfection of her attacking skill such that she did not even mind the weakening of her own defense in order to master it. She had lost count of how many times the sharp boomerangs had injured her body when she unleashed them. Underneath her clothes, countless scars crisscrossed the surface of her body. However, these scars were steadily healing now due to the life force. Each and every soldier's body in the entire army was having the same experience. They could clearly sense the changes that were happening to them under the revitalization of the life force. Blood 2, Blood 4, Blood 5, Blood 6, Blood 7, Blood 8, Blood 9, and also the army's powerhouses ranked higher than title d'honneur had arrived in the air. Even without meditation, they were capable of absorbing the incomparably thick life force by relying on their cultivation base. As they were absorbing the life force, there was utterly no need to hold back as they each unleashed their own strength to draw in more origin energy. Almost all the origin energy across the endless mountains had gathered above the Blood God Army and was infusing into the life-engulfing source. The thicker the origin energy, the stronger and more intense the life force unleashed from the outlet. Gradually, green-hued speckles pushed out soundlessly from the thick snow on the ground. At first, it went unseen, until the green color spread farther across the snow. Blood One's gaze was fixated while Zhong Huanyin's expression was even more vivid. He had been in this place for over 60 years, yet he had never seen such green in the endless mountains before. He did not mind the high cost of building a greenhouse in the army and cultivating some plants in order for his soldiers to feel the joy of green, but that was all he could do. However, at that moment, he witnessed the green shade spreading across the white, snow-covered landscape of the endless mountains. What a beautiful shade of green! Even though the green could not possibly last long in the snow, the sight of this color still managed to shock everyone that had seen it. The little green seedlings began to grow slowly from the continued infusion of thick life aura. The cold did not slow their growth at all. On the contrary, the thick water element in the snow was nourishing the seedlings alongside the life force. Sunlight and water nourished them into growing healthy and strong. Gradually, shoots of saplings began to push out from the ground of the endless mountains. These saplings were absorbing life force but also guiding the origin energy to infuse into the core center that was unleashing that life force. Ding! A crisp crackling sound was heard in Tang Wulin's mind. He could clearly see that the nature seed seemed to be cracking a little bit more now. The tiny, tender, golden shoot that had been struggling to emerge slowly opened up and revealed a golden leaf. The leaf was so small, it looked as if it could break at the slightest touch, but the life force could be felt more and more clearly now. It was germinating. It had truly germinated. Streams of light appeared at Tang Wulin's side soundlessly. Those were the 6 plant-type soul beasts which had fused into his body before. All of them sat cross-legged in the area surrounding Tang Wulin as soon as they came out and quietly absorbed the life aura unleashed by the nature seed. At the same time, they unleashed their own auras to refine the life force by working in rhythm with the nature seed. The green-gold soul ring on Tang Wulin's body was illuminated. It bloomed with a dazzling array of lights as he could suddenly feel the entirety of the endless mountains. He could sense everything in the external world through those newly germinated saplings. Time passed and life continued. Leaves began to continuously push out from the nature seed, till the 7th leaf emerged. The golden light suddenly vanished as all the life aura paused at once. A 7-leaved golden mark appeared on Tang Wulin's forehead. The life aura vanished and the origin energy dissipated naturally. On the other hand, looking at the endless mountains from above would reveal that there were already saplings which had grown to over 1 meter in height all over the snowy white land. Even though the saplings could not truly survive under such freezing conditions, they had existed for a moment at least. Despite being only temporary beauty, the saplings added a dash of spring to all the endless mountains. The high-ranking officers of the Blood God Army inhaled deeply and opened up every pore on each part of their bodies to absorb the last of the life force as they floated in the sky. Everyone appeared to be glowing with health. It was midday. Not only had everyone's hidden diseases vanished after being nourished by life force for a few hours, but they had also even managed to gain at least 5 years of life. This was the benefit of infusing life energy. The effect was even better, especially for Blood 1, Blood 3, and Zhong Huanyun, who had absorbed the pure life force since the very beginning. Zhong Huanyun had been a titled Duoluo stuck at rank 98 for a very long time. For decades, he had not managed to advance at all because it was very difficult for his body to make the final breakthrough. He felt for the first time the constrictive bottleneck before him was loosened during the process of absorbing the life force. How could he not be excited over it? Please help to thank the boy on my behalf. The Blood God Army owes him a great favor for his help. Ask him what he wants and provide him accordingly. I'm going to engage in closed-door cultivation for some time. Qianwu, you'll take over the management of the daily routines. Zhong Huanyun's figure vanished from the army in a flash upon saying that. The group of people had absorbed so much life force that they rushed to return to their living quarters so as to convert the life force they gained today into what they wished for during their cultivation practice. The entire army quietened down as they digested and absorbed a massive portion of the life force. The large stretch of saplings swayed rhythmically in the bitter cold wind of the frozen and snow-covered land. The plants would not disappear at least for a short period of time. Tang Wulin opened his eyes slowly while his 5 soul rings were retracted silently. The smooth glossy surface of his skin gradually returned to normal. He had never experienced such a wonderful feeling before. It felt like the origin energy was flowing into his body with every breath he took. His bloodline fluctuation and soul power fluctuation fused into one another to influence the elevation of his cultivation base. Rank 64. After absorbing such a dense life force and origin energy, his soul power cultivation base sustained a breakthrough to rank 64 right after he was in possession of the soul core. Your Excellency, we can begin now. The damask tulip floated and bowed in salutation toward Tang Wulin under the close and envious watch of the other 5 great 100,000-year plant-type soul beasts. The growth of the 7th leaf from the nature seed completely convinced all of them of his identity as the nature child. How could Tang Wulin trigger the birth of the nature seed if he were not the nature child? If not for the location that was unsuitable, the nature seed would already have taken root and germinate by now. So long as Tang Wulin's identity as the nature child ensured that he was one with the nature seed, he could channel the origin energy for his own use. Great! Tang Wulin nodded toward the damask tulip. At once, the damask tulip swayed its body once and transformed into a large pink flower with its petals fluttering in the air as it spun around Tang Wulin. The thick energy fluctuation circulated in the air as a tyrannical aura cruised through the airflow. A delicate fragrance lingered in every corner of the living quarters like a mist. The fusion of the spirit soul would require both parties to have mutual empathy and complete willingness. There was no doubt that the shackles that bound the damask tulip's heart were already removed, and it was willing to accompany Tang Wulin for the rest of its life. Everything was achieved effortlessly during the process where the pink radiance was fusing into his body. Tang Wulin's body that was nourished by the nature seed earlier appeared to withstand its 100,000-year cultivation base with great ease. The entire process of absorbing the spirit soul was smooth due to the nature seed assuming command of the process. The presence of a strong body, a plant-type martial soul, and the nature seed ensured that the fusion process was carried out without a hitch. Pink petals gradually circled, spun, and retracted around Tang Wulin's body. Finally, it transformed into a ring of blood-red radiance that surrounded Tang Wulin while the rest of his 5 soul rings emerged once again to reflect the blood-red soul ring. Tang Wulin's aura increased exponentially. His whole body's quality transformed once again after being infused by the 100,000-year spirit soul. There was a spiritual aura about him with a dash of elegant fragrance emanating from his body. The fusion of the damask tulip ensured that all kinds of poison could not invade Tang Wulin's body from then on. Although it was a fusion of the spirit soul and not the soul bone, the spirit soul's assistance was not something a soul bone could measure up to. Tang Wulin closed his eyes as he entered into the meditative state once again. The soul core in his abdomen area shook ever so slightly as the dense soul power immediately spun in his body following the mysterious Heaven Methods mode of operation. Simultaneously, the dragon core responded as well. His bloodline power circulated in reverse. These two powers circulated in opposite directions to form a whole new vortex within Tang Wulin's body. As a matter of course, the origin energy in the air was gathering toward him. Tang Wulin had reason to believe that he would only spend a short amount of time during the process of elevating his cultivation base from rank 60 to rank 70 as compared to the previous elevations in the past. The fusion of a 100,000-year spirit soul allowed his soul power to be elevated a step further to rank 65. He had already caught up with his companion's standards within a few short months. At the same time, the elevation of his cultivation base had exceeded his soul power elevation by far. As to the extent of his elevation, he would still need to experience it in depth via actual combat in order to be thoroughly acquainted to the gains of his elevation at this time. Naturally, the soul power vortex achieved breakthrough after the fusion process that had taken such a long time to finally allow Tang Wulin to join the ranks of the high-ranking soul masters. It had also established the foundation for him to continue to the peak of cultivation in the future. The entire Blood God army gradually awoke after a full day. The feeling was undoubtedly peculiar for everyone. It felt like each person was given a new lease of life after being nourished by the life force. Blood One was already waiting for Tang Wulin when Tang Wulin reappeared in the Blood God Battalion's camp. Although I'm not supposed to ask about this, I can't refrain myself from asking you anyhow. What was that with the dense life energy? Blood One looked at Tang Wulin curiously with Blood Three standing by his side. They were the two people from the Blood God Battalion who managed to gain the most from Tang Wulin's breakthrough this time. Tang Wulin pondered for a moment before he answered, I wonder if both of you are aware of the ancient gold tree. Blood Three's expression changed as she cried out involuntarily, of course, we're aware of that. I thought the ancient gold tree, along with the academy, had. Tang Wulin nodded gently. The ancient gold tree is still the core of nature. I don't know its origins, but it was probably left by the first ancestor of Shrek Academy. I received the ancient gold tree's assistance through a chance encounter which allowed me to possess the strength to be on intimate terms with nature. Perhaps, it's because I'm initially a plant-type soul master. Before the explosion which destroyed the ancient gold tree, it left me its seed and used my body as its origin source to nourish its seed. The seed awakened when I achieved a breakthrough to my soul core, and it resulted in a dense life source being emitted while I absorbed massive amounts of origin energy from the air. This is not a suitable place for it to grow. Hence, it'll remain as the core of Shrek Academy when we rebuild Shrek City in the future. Tang Wulin's voice sounded sonorous and forceful with a grim determination when he ended his elucidation. Blood 3 covered her mouth subconsciously while tears streamed down her face spontaneously. How could she possibly not know about the existence of the ancient gold tree as a former high-ranking personnel of Shrek Academy? It was the foundation of the Sea God's Pavilion and whose very existence relied on it. The ancient gold tree was not completely annihilated, for it left behind its seed. Hence, there was a possibility of its revival. What else could be more exciting to her other than having this knowledge? The existence of the ancient gold tree signified that it was highly possible for the Academy to be rebuilt. Blood 1 was similarly shocked, for the ancient gold tree was once Shrek Academy's true core. Tang Wulin and the others could not possibly survive the incident without the ancient gold tree's protection. He did not expect the tree to leave behind its seed, so it was truly a marvelous event. The ancient gold tree had actually protected the entire Shrek City, including the Tang sect headquarters at the time. Unfortunately, the enemy's attack was overly powerful, such that the two Godkiller rank fixed soul ammunition's destructive power exceeded the ancient gold tree's protective capability. A tinge of sorrow flashed past Tang Wulin's eyes. Perhaps the ancient gold tree could have successfully withstood the catastrophe if it had not given a third of its energy to Tang Wulin. His heart was filled with guilt. No matter what, he would ensure the nature's seed to grow again. Blood 1 looked at Tang Wulin intensely. The ancient gold tree seed had brought immense benefit to the army. It allowed everyone to receive nourishment from the life force and elevated everyone's cultivation base. What do you wish as a reward for doing so? Reward? There's a reward for that? You helped me gather so much origin energy. This is a little embarrassing. I can ask for anything as a reward. Tang Wulin's eyes were glowing. Blood 1 was still smiling as he listened to Tang Wulin's first half of the conversation. With the turn of events during the latter part of the conversation, Tang Wulin was at a loss whether to laugh or cry. Boy, you really know how to capitalize on your benefits, don't you? However, that's good too. Zhong Huanyun said that you can choose your reward. I was the one who helped to gather the origin energy for you in the beginning, but everyone joined in afterward. The ancient gold tree absorbed such a massive amount of energy. It'll definitely startle the world if it happened elsewhere. The origin energy from at least 1,000 square meters was absorbed into nothingness. He was right. Had it been another place with a dense population other than the deserted Boundless Mountain, Tang Wulin would definitely not be able to absorb such a massive amount of the origin energy so easily. The reward, can it be a military rank? Look, I've already entered the finals and even for the mecha battle as well. Could my military rank be promoted too? Tang Wulin inquired. Blood 1's lips could not help cracking into a faint smile. Why is military rank so important to you? I wish to know why you want your military rank promotion so much. Tang Wulin answered, I thought I'll be granted leave of absence when I'm promoted to the rank of major and above. Then I'll be able to leave the camp freely. Blood 1 was stunned for a moment while Blood 3 could not refrain herself from laughing. So you're doing this to be entitled to leave of absence? Our Blood God Battalion is supposed to enjoy the benefit of 1 leave of absence per week. You can also accumulate a few days to go on a long leave of absence. Although you're a supernumerary personnel, you are entitled to preferential treatment as well. Huh? Tang Wulin was truly unaware that the Blood God Battalion offered such special treatment. Blood 1 could not help smiling upon seeing Tang Wulin caught in bewilderment. Do you still want your military rank promotion then? Tang Wulin clenched his teeth and spoke, I'll take it. The Blood God Army's reward was nothing more than material gains and military ranks. He could still exchange for the materials by earning merits from forging. However, he could not do the same with military rank promotions. He would still need the Blood God Battalion's assistance to be promoted. Blood 1 nodded and spoke, all right, military rank it is then. Zhong Huanyun is still engaged in closed-door cultivation at the moment. The Blood God Battalion is allowed to decide on the military rank promotion as long as it's with proper justification. The merits you've accumulated are enough to confer you a major. In addition, your entry into the finals of both the competitions qualifies you to be the top 3 finalists. Besides, the life force you've brought enlightened the entire army, increased everyone's lifespan by at least 5 years, and indirectly healed many people's internal injuries. It is a meritorious service with astronomical gains. I might as well immediately confer 2 military ranks upon you. I'm making an exception in your promotion, but your cultivation base is worthy of your rank. Thus, I'm conferring to you the rank of colonel. Are you willing to accept? Yes. Tang Wulin immediately uttered the acceptance. Even his tone went a few pitches higher. What else was there if not to accept? What could be better than this? He was a colonel now. He had simply attained the highest level in a single step, which was similar to being promoted to a regimental commander from a platoon leader. He was even 1 rank higher than Jiang Wuyue. It truly made him swell with pride. Blood One smiled and nodded. Very well then. I shall make arrangements for your promotion ceremony. It's decided then. Thank you, sir. Tang Wulin stood at attention and saluted. Go, said Blood One with a smile. Tang Wulin left with joy and excitement. He was going to continue practicing his spear technique. He would like to see if he could achieve a breakthrough in his spear technique after his cultivation base was much elevated and his soul core condensed. Blood 3 watched as Tang Wulin boarded the elevator joyously. Wondering whether to laugh or cry, she said, I thought you've always cared for him. Is it okay to entrap him like this? Blood 1 spoke with a smile. How am I entrapping him? This is the reward he wanted. I didn't make him choose it. Blood 3 spoke with helplessness. You're allowed to give him the highest reward of the army according to the regimental commander's wish. Still, the highest reward of the army is a red mecha. Being conferred a higher military rank is nothing but a mere ideology. Our Blood God battalion doesn't acknowledge ranks anyway. It's a vast difference between being conferred a colonel and being awarded a red mecha. Blood 1 spoke with a smile. Of course, I'm aware of that. However, it may not necessarily be a good thing to give him the red mecha now. His speed of progress is too fast, so he will need to temper himself more. Even if he were to own a red mecha in the future, I hope that it'll be through his own effort to build one for himself and not rely on receiving one directly. It's true that he did enlighten the entire army this time, but it wasn't all his effort actually. I worry that he will become conceited if he's overly rewarded. The boy has a stable temperament. Fortunately, he's not so easily influenced. I don't want his mental state disturbed by external forces. Blood 3 heaved a sigh. He will be facing a tough time that is beyond our imagination in the future. The possession of a divine mecha will at least be an additional safeguard for him. Blood 1 shook his head and spoke in all apparent seriousness. Only his own ability can truly safeguard him. For us soul masters, we must depend only on ourselves to reach the peak and not on a mecha. I can see the potential in him that goes beyond the ranks of a limit dolor. To be the choice of the nature seed, think about it, where did the ancient gold tree come from in the beginning? It's a level that could only be reached by the divine. He had the approval of the ancient gold tree, the approval of the nature seed for the revival of nature on the entire continent. Thus, his possibility in the future could well be. He raised his hand and pointed up with his finger. Blood 3 looked at Blood 1 in astonishment. Is that truly possible? Blood 1 answered, I don't know either. However, if there is even the slightest chance, it will certainly be him. I'm confident in him. Blood 3 took a deep breath. She now understood that Blood 1 had such high regard of Tang Wulin. Tang Wulin was unaware of his loss, as he immediately ran over to the gravity training room. He retrieved his golden dragon spear and continued with his training. Soon, he discovered that he had become something different. The transformation which he was looking forward to had finally appeared. He held the golden dragon spear in his hand. The moment he pierced forward with his spear, his dragon core and soul core would release its aura naturally. Simultaneously, Tang Wulin could sense the double rotation of a peculiar vortex appearing in the middle of the 2 great energy cores, which unleashed a gush of strength into him before diffusing into the spear. It was the perfect fusion of his bloodline power and soul power. The spear's radiance began to change as its initial dazzling golden color turned white gold. Without using his soul skill, 3 feet of the spear's radiance would be unleashed naturally whenever he pierced forward with the golden dragon spear. It was a result of the guidance from Tang Wulin's strength. Currently, the spear's radiance achieved a length of 7 feet, and it was a move he made effortlessly. He did not have to shift his strength intentionally at all. In other words, the quality change to his spear's radiance had also doubled its power. Moreover, the white gold spear's radiance was certainly different from the initial golden spear's radiance. It was definitely a great surprise to him. The spear's power had increased exponentially, while he could infuse his energy into the spear such that his awareness of the divine weapon became much stronger. It was as if the more energy he infused into the spear, the more intense the inner secret unleashed from the golden dragon spear would be. He pierced forward with the spear continuously until the white gold radiance illuminated every part of the room. The spear's radiance could reach 100 meters when Tang Wulin focused all his efforts into piercing forward with the spear and almost penetrated the training room. What was that? Tang Wulin felt his bloodline boiling. Was he so powerful as such? He utterly dared not unleash all his strength outside the training room. No, I must try it out at the Stardo Battle Network. It was the only place where he could unleash all his abilities. Wu Yue, what are you doing now? If you're free, why don't we train in the Stardo Battle Network? I've had some insight from my recent cultivation. Would you like to try it out? What? You've some insight as well. Great. Let's spar then. Are you paying? Why bother splitting the cost between us? That'll only put a distance between us. Give me a treat. I don't find it awkward anymore. Hey, don't hang up, don't hang. We'll split the cost equally then. It was getting more difficult for Jiang Wuyue to ask Tang Wulin for a treat these days, for he was getting more shrewd. If only Jiang Wuyue could hear Tang Wulin's thought, I learned this from you. Tang Wulin entered the Stardo Battle Network first and waited for Jiang Wuyue at the agreed location. Although there was no competition, the Stardo Battle Network was heavily utilized in the army. Jiang Wuyue would need to queue for his turn. Tang Wulin waited for half an hour before Jiang Wuyue finally arrived. You're late, said Tang Wulin. Jiang Wuyue spoke with an unpleasant tone. You think everyone is in your Blood God battalion where everyone has their own Stardo cabin? Do you know how much I envy you? I'll get myself one once I've accumulated enough merits. Only that it's too expensive. It takes 8,000 merits, and I can't afford that. Tang Wulin spoke smilingly. Then, you'll have to be patient and queue for your turn. Let's go. Less talk, more action. Jiang Wuyue scoffed once. I'll definitely beat you up so bad this time you'll be looking for your teeth all over the floor. Let me tell you this. I don't know how the army managed to trigger a massive amount of life force a few days ago, but I made a qualitative improvement from the event. It's an enormous breakthrough. My soul power vortex is formed. My overlord dragon's strength is elevated multiple times with the support of my soul power vortex, so I've no need to worry about the lack of strength anymore. Just wait and see, hee hee. Tang Wulin smiled as he spoke with a harmless expression on his face. Sure. I'm not afraid to be beaten, for one can only improve after being beaten. Jiang Wuyue shouted, go! They split the cost of 2,000 Federation coins between them equally. A radiance flashed past and they entered the competition arena. It was apparent that Jiang Wuyue was overjoyed with his breakthrough. He could hardly suppress himself. As soon as the electronic voice was heard, he immediately unleashed his battle armor and martial soul. A dusk gold radiance engulfed his body. Tang Wulin saw a dense and vigorous, dusk gold vortex appearing vaguely in front of his body. The blooming of the vortex immediately made Jiang Wuyue's body swell up to 8 meters. The thick and heavy 2-word battle armor attached to his body exuded an exceedingly tyrannical aura which burst forth from his body at once. His soul power, under his control, was spinning at full speed, while a terrifying strength fluctuation shook the surrounding air so violently wisps of crack marks appeared in the air. Jiang Wuyue spoke in a discernible prideful tone, The soul power vortex that I've formed is different from others. The spinning speed of my soul power vortex is at least 3 times that of an ordinary soul master because of my body's strong endurance. It supplies me with an exceedingly massive amount of energy that is directly infused into my strength. My strength has grown 3-fold as well. You're certainly no match for me this time despite your strength in the past. Come. Tang Wulin smiled as a golden radiance shimmered on his body. With his 2-word battle armor attached to his body and his mask deployed, he gave out a crisp sonorous sound while his golden dragon spear appeared in his hand simultaneously. The spear swayed once by his side as a 7 feet white gold radiance bloomed from the tip of the spear. A raging roar was heard. Jiang Wuyue dashed in Tang Wulin's direction in great strides. His hands were stretched out as a pair of war hammers dropped into his hands. He raised the war hammers as a dense and energetic dusk gold radiance burst out instantly, which appeared like 2 little meteors heading straight toward Tang Wulin. He was not lying about his increased strength. His double war hammers now yielded at least a 3-fold increase in its strength. Even a 3-word battle armor master could not withstand the terror of his power. Tang Wulin squinted his eyes. The battle armor on his entire body was rippling with a faint golden radiance. He made a sudden move in the next moment. The pair of dragon wings on his back retracted abruptly. All of a sudden, his entire body turned brighter when he touched the tip of his toes against the ground. The wings on his back flapped just once when Jiang Wuyue saw a stream of dazzling radiance in the next moment. A sense of sharpness which was difficult to define was felt for a moment. The double war hammer's strength seemed to have dissipated within a split second, and even his soul power vortex that was spinning at full speed paused momentarily. From the beginning to the end, Jiang Wuyue only saw a speckle of white gold radiance flashed past before disappearing. A moment later, Tang Wulin vanished without a trace. Soon after, Jiang Wuyue discovered that his soul power vortex was out of control. Boom! Jiang Wuyue's body disappeared within a violent explosion accompanied by the sounds of him screaming out in agony. The golden flares on Tang Wulin's body were retracted at present. The crystal clear, yet solid-like radiance that turned white gold were emitted from the golden dragon spear but was now slowly dissipating. At the moment just before Jiang Wuyue exploded, a huge hole that was a full meter in diameter penetrated his enormous body. Even his 2-word battle armor was incapable of shrinking the wound. A shadow flashed and Tang Wulin was removed from the battle zone without having much of an opportunity to learn from the experience. Jiang Wuyue stood over there with an astonished expression. Similar to how Tang Wulin had yet to fully experience the change of his energy during the battle, Jiang Wuyue had yet to completely awaken from his sudden annihilation. What happened? He had made such a vast improvement, yet how did it end so soon? He did not even have the chance to see the wound on his body. Wulin, you're out as well? What happened? Is there something wrong with the Star Do battle network? Jiang Wuyue looked at Tang Wulin in puzzlement. Tang Wulin blinked. I don't know. I'm out as well, am I not? It seems like both of us collided into each other and the competition ended on its own accord. Jiang Wuyue frowned deeply. I've not heard of any problem with the Star Do battle network though. If there's something wrong with the system, the Federation will be in deep trouble. Come, let's try again. He took the initiative to pay the 2,000 Federation coins as he was saying that. Both of them were brought into the competition stage of the battle zone once again. A radiance flashed once as both of them appeared simultaneously. The countdown from the electronic voice was heard, which sounded the same as before. It feels like nothing has changed. Yet, how did the earlier problem appear? Said Jiang Wuyue to Tang Wulin in a confused expression. Tang Wulin answered, shall we try again? Jiang Wuyue nodded. Sure, let's do it again. He unleashed his battle armor and martial soul once again as he was speaking. 6 soul rings arose while his body enlarged together with a pair of war hammers in his hands. He growled ferociously as he dashed in Tang Wulin's direction. Tang Wulin was similarly clad in his battle armor with the golden dragon spear in his hand. The white gold spear's radiance appeared once again. With his prior experience, his spirit and soul fused into one instantly. The two great energy cores were shimmering with dazzling radiance as they transformed into the yin-yang energy vortex, which resulted in a sudden increase of energy in the white gold spear's radiance. When he dashed toward Jiang Wuyue, the golden radiance on his body was evidently growing stronger. He relied on the Golden Dragonfly's move of the Golden Dragon 9 moves in the earlier battle to increase his speed. With the support from his positive-negative vortex, the power of the Golden Dragonflies was greatly enhanced. In his next move, using the omnipotent sharp spear's consciousness, Tang Wulin pierced through Jiang Wuyue's body. He did not even bother to use the Golden Dragonflies this time, but he dashed directly toward Jiang Wuyue. However, his speed had doubled as compared to before. He touched the tips of his toes against the ground and accelerated abruptly. In a flash, he was already upon Jiang Wuyue. This time, Tang Wulin seriously felt the experience. Just as Jiang Wuyue's double war hammers were about to strike his body, the double cores in his body glowed brightly while the dragon wings behind his back flapped once abruptly to accelerate for a second time. He forced his way between the double war hammers, followed closely by his white gold spear's radiance, which had reached Jiang Wuyue's dusk gold battle armor. The Overlord Dragon's defense in addition to the two-word battle armor had made Jiang Wuyue exceedingly powerful. However, both defenses dissolved silently, upon contact with the white gold spear's radiance, to flow along Tang Wulin's spear tip. A shadow flashed once and Tang Wulin landed on the ground out of thin air. This time, the entire process was not as fast without the enhancement from the Golden Dragonflies. At least, Jiang Wuyue felt intense pain. When he lowered his head to look at himself, he saw a huge gaping hole on his chest. Just then, the electronic voice was heard. The competition has ended. Little Tang, victory. A shadow flashed once again as both of them were sent out from the competition stage in succession. Jiang Wuyue widened his eyes in surprise outside the battle zone while Tang Wulin had an innocent expression. What happened there? Earlier? It was so painful. You defeated me. Jiang Wuyue finally came to realize the truth. Tang Wulin blinked. I've won? It ended too soon. Why did I not feel anything? How did I win? Exactly. How did you win? Jiang Wuyue's face was filled with confusion. The serious flaw in Jiang Wuyue was that he had always assumed no battle armor master of equal rank was capable of breaking his defense in one move, hence defeating him in the same instant. He still could not figure out the situation this time despite feeling the pain. Tang Wulin spoke with a stern expression. It seems like the battle network has a number of problems in its system. We must try out a few more times. If it's truly faulty, we can then report to the army. Come, let's try out again. I'll pay this time. Jiang Wuyue believed Tang Wulin upon seeing him pay the fee willingly with his overwhelming sense of righteousness. Both of them entered the battle network once again. A minute later, they were sent out in succession again. What the heck? That was too painful. Tang Wulin, what happened? What's with that white gold spear's radiance of yours? This time, I actually saw it. It was your golden dragon spear that punctured a hole in my body. What's going on with you? Did you capitalize on a flaw in the battle network system? Or were you cheating? Asked Jiang Wuyue as he skipped about. The corners of Tang Wulin's lips twitched. He coughed once and spoke, No. How could I possibly know the battle network's flaw, as this is a technological product of the entire Federation? Is there something wrong with you? An issue with your defense, or perhaps your own cultivation that resulted in the weakening of your defense? This video will end here. Like video and subscribe to my channel.